Hello and welcome to Diddy on Trial with me, Anoushka Mutanda-Dougherty. Diddy. This is the place to come to find out everything you need to know about Diddy and his upcoming trial. We're unpacking the unfolding story, we're myth-busting, we're fact-checking, and we're answering your questions.
We about to do it! I love my friends and I love y'all, let's go!
And new episodes will be with you every week, but when there's breaking news, we'll drop a fresh emergency ep into the feed, so make sure you subscribe to the BBC World Service YouTube channel so you never miss a thing. So the real question with this is, where do you actually begin? Because the federal charges and the civil suits facing P. Diddy marks a huge moment in hip-hop history. But if following the case isn't your morning, noon and night, it can be a little bit confusing. Don't worry, we've got you covered. If, however, you hold a degree in the Diddyverse, please feel free to skip to the next section on the timeline where we fill you in on the latest news. For those of you who are still with me, cue the refresher course. Diddy, real name Shaun Combs, has occupied a top spot in the music industry for decades. He earned his stripes during the golden age of hip-hop, and he's been called rap royalty. When he was 24, he founded Bad Boy Records, and one of the first artists he signed was the notorious B.I.G. You know, one of the most critically acclaimed rappers of all time. Since then, he's won 3 Grammys, got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, had 11 #1 records, and made the Forbes billionaire list. A lot of people who know Diddy also know Cassie. She's a singer-songwriter who dated the rap mogul for over a decade.
Cassie, come get some of this, on. We're gonna put you in the middle. Let you clean up. Put you in the middle.
On the 16th of September 2024, Diddy was arrested by the federal government and charged with sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, and racketeering with conspiracy. If convicted, he could face life in prison. Diddy denies it all. There are also dozens of civil suits being filed against him, with one Texas lawyer, Tony Busby, claiming he represents over 120 alleged victims of P. Diddy and other co-conspirators. Diddy's defense have called these lawsuits false and defamatory. This has led to a hunt for the so-called Diddy list, a record of all the celebrities who could be linked to Diddy's alleged crimes. Now, he's sat in a notorious New York jail awaiting trial in May 2025. He's been denied bail 3 times, although he is trying to appeal it. And that pretty much brings us up to date. So last week, me and the team, we were all on Diddy Watch, waiting to see if Judge Subramanian would let him out for Thanksgiving. He did not. But while everyone was looking at what was going down in New York with the federal case, in LA, a new civil lawsuit was filed. It alleges that in 2016, Diddy dangled a woman over the balcony of a 17th floor apartment while screaming at her, "Do you know what you did?" Understandably, it's caught everyone's attention. Helping me unpack it today on the pod is Rolling Stone's senior investigative reporter, Cheyenne Roundtree, and criminal defense attorney, Shaun Kent. Cheyenne, first of all, who is Bana Bongolan?
So Bana describes herself as a fashion designer or just kind of a person within the fashion community. She lives in Los Angeles. She has a jewelry line. She's collaborated on album covers, music videos. So she's a very kind of roundabout, kind of full circle creative type person who says that she first met Cassie in 2014 while they're working out of this popular Los Angeles skate shop store. It's just really notorious for their t-shirts in Los Angeles.
So she was kind of like an LA creative type.
An LA creative is the best way to describe her, and especially in this 2014 range, she describes herself as aspiring and trying to get, her foot in the door like so many young creatives at that time.
And talk to me a little bit about Cassie in 2014, because we know she's a musician, she's making music, but why is she working in the same place as Bana?
Yeah, so Cassie at this point is a music artist. She already had her big song, Me and You, come out, but also Cassie has been a model and she has dabbled in, fashion as well in her own clothing line. Her and Bana actually created their own clothing line out of this store. So because of her friendship with Cassie, Bana then is kind of brought into the Combs, enterprise, the family system. She starts designing bad boy jackets for the Bad Boy reunion tour in 2016. She's working on music videos, album covers, just kind of the range of his multiple businesses. Bana's kind of brought on as part of the creative family under Diddy's, multi, enterprise businesses.
So, what does she allege happened in 2016?
She claims that she and her girlfriend were sleeping over at Cassie's apartment when she woke up in the middle of the night and heard these vicious and furious bangs on the door, and she alleges that this wasn't unusual for Diddy to show up unannounced at Cassie's house and bang down the door. However, this instance, her girlfriend was there. She tells her girlfriend to hide. She ends up on the balcony when Diddy storms into the apartment. He makes a beeline for her, and he's upset. He's yelling, you know, um, do you know what the you did? And then he picks her up. And Bonna's a tiny, tiny woman. She's under 5 foot. She was under 100 pounds at the time. And he picks her up. Well, first she says that he kind of gropes her breast area. And then as she's trying to fight back, he lifts her up by her armpits and just dangles her over the 17th floor balcony. And she's terrified. So that is the bulk of her claim of her lawsuit, was this harrowing incident where she really feels that her life was in jeopardy because of spit of rage that he was in at her.
And he's screaming, do you know what you did? Is there anything in the lawsuit that indicates what he's actually referring to?
No, and Bonnet says in the lawsuit, she still doesn't know exactly what he was referring to by that when he says that. He's just inexplicably mad at her, and she still doesn't know why.
Because she says that it was literally just his grip that was stopping her from falling to her death.
Yeah. And we've seen pictures of this balcony. She's included it in her lawsuit. We've seen it in social media posts. People hung out on Cassie's balcony all the time. It is a tall drop. I live in a tall high-rise building in New York City, and I'm not even that high up. And I would be petrified if I was dangled from, my floors.
And one of the first things that I thought when I saw this lawsuit pop up was that it felt strikingly similar to something that Cassie alleged happened in her original lawsuit, which I have here. It says, in around August 2015, after a freak-off, Diddy picked up her friend like a child and dangled them over the 17th floor apartment balcony. But there are some differences. Firstly, the date, and secondly, the circumstance between what Bana alleges happened and what Cassie said happened. So for people who are saying that Bana is corroborating Cassie's original claim, Shaun, that can't be right because the details are different.
Completely. The details. So it's not corroboration in full fact. It's corroboration in full conduct. So it's basically saying this is something that this person is likely to do. So it corroborates the conduct of this person.
If you were defending Diddy, wouldn't you say, wait, hold on a second, two things have been alleged that are very similar. It's the 17th floor. I mean, that is quite the similarity, but they're also very different. Could that weaken the claim in some way?
It could, but this is the thing I think folks are missing. If you look at the lawsuit, even though Diddy is named in the lawsuit, you notice there's a bunch of organizations and other individuals and other companies that are listed. That's who the people are going after, because there's no such thing as insurance for Diddy's awful actions. So suing Diddy, candidly, is not going to do you a lot of good, because he's not going to be able to sit for a deposition. He's not going to be able to participate in the lawsuit. He can't do anything until his criminal matter is over. But the lawsuits, all of them have a very interesting point. They're saying all of these corporations, all of these organizations knew what Diddy was like. They allowed him to engage in this behavior, and they could have stopped it, and they chose not to. The example I give is sort of like, if you have a dog and he bites one person, you're not on the hook for it because you didn't know your dog was likely to bite. But if your dog goes out and bites a second person and a third person and a fourth person, you're on notice.
And look, we asked Diddy's team, of course, about Bana Bongolan's accusations, and this is what they sent us. As we've shared previously, anyone has the right to file a lawsuit regardless of the evidence they may or may not have. Since last year, Miss Bongolan has expressed an intention to sue Mr. Combs and has sought legal representation to pursue her claims. Mr. Combs firmly denies these serious allegations and remains confident they will ultimately be proven baseless. He has unwavering faith in the facts and in the fairness of the judicial process. In court, the truth will come to light, demonstrating that the claims against Mr. Combs are without merit. And his team have also dismissed the other civil suits that have been filed as an obvious attempt to garner publicity. They say Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. So the other thing that catches your eye with this particular lawsuit is the amount attached to it, $10 million. That's a lot of money. How do you arrive at that number, Shaun?
It's a number. Let's be very honest. It's a number because you cannot quantify damages. You can't put a number on what mental health goes through. You can't put a number on, like, Anoushka, if I was to dangle you over a balcony, how much would you charge me to do it? Because who knows if the pain she went through is worth $10 million or $10. I don't know. The only person who knows is the plaintiff, ever.
Because it's such a large number, could it add to public perception that this is a cash grab? I mean, that's something that's been said by Diddy and his defense. They've said that before. Could it contribute to that narrative?
How are you going to prove this is actually what you went through worth $10 million?
And I would also add is that, a big underlying part of the cases around Diddy is this idea. It's not just what they went through at that time, but a loss of career opportunities, a loss of, a pathway forward. I think Bana says in her lawsuit, she thought working and associating herself with Diddy would be the big career boost that she needed at that time. And she says instead she walked away with lasting trauma and terror. And so it's not just about the balcony incident. She's alleging that, for a period of up until 2018, her career was wrapped up in this as well. And as we've seen, he just was put behind bars in September. That was what, 3 months ago. And so why did it take so long? He just went away. So maybe also that played into the why now of why she felt comfortable filing this, also knowing that she accused him of coming into her friend's apartment and dangling her over a balcony.
And that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these folks are saying, I'm glad he didn't get a bond because now I have the strength to come out because I know he's never going to get out. And that's one of the things a lot of the prosecutors have been alleging is these lawsuits came out because they're like, thank the Lord he can't come get me.
It was also filed on the night that he was denied bail. So there also is you have to look at different things beyond this happened in 2016 and it's now 2024. You have to look at other little dates on the timeline that might explain why someone filed when they did.
Another thing that people often ask is, why did you continue to associate with that person past the event? In this case, that's Diddy. Did Bana continue to work with him after 2016?
I think there's been a really great quote, I think from FK Twigs that says, why do you ask the victim why they stayed in a situation versus asking that question of the alleged abuser? But this goes again to she was financially dependent on this man. This was her career. And we have heard allegations that he has made threats to people. And so that all plays into maybe why someone feels that they have to kind of zip their lip and kind of duck their head down and just carry on the work until it is safe to leave.
And aside from the $10 million and the alleged incident that took place on the 26th of September, the other thing that really catches your eye in this lawsuit is the examples of Diddy as a threat and the examples of him allegedly abusing Cassie. Now, we have seen footage of him abusing her, assaulting her in the hallway of a hotel in 2016. That's the same year that this is alleged to have taken place. Cheyenne, what were some of the other details in Bana's lawsuit?
Yeah, I think she says from the beginning of when she started hanging out with Cassie, she saw little trickles or the beginnings of something that she described as an abusive relationship.
And she heard a rumor about him and a dog?
Yeah, when Bana's explaining why she felt before this balcony incident that he could make good on these alleged threats, she says, I know about his history. I see what he was doing to Cassie. I heard a rumor that he had skinned someone's dog. It's just all plays into this idea that Bana was very scared.
And Shaun, outside of the incident that Bana alleges took place in September, she also alleges that she saw abusive behaviour towards Cassie and Cassie covered in bruises. Is there any point kind of corroborating Cassie's narrative at this point?
Well, yes. And then when that's coupled with when he went online and made this apology.
My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
It's hard for him later to sit in a deposition, a sworn statement, and say, this didn't happen. I would never do this to a woman. I'm not the type of person who would hit somebody. Because remember, His civil lawsuit, a lot more is going to be able to come in than his criminal case. In his civil lawsuit, they're going to be able to bring in all of his past conduct, all of his past actions.
And so if that is proven then in criminal court, Bana then can use that examples as corroboration for what she also witnessed. So it is kind of pulling in from things that will play out in the criminal proceedings as well.
And that's actually one of the questions that we had sent in. PJ says, can Cassie testify or provide witness statements in the trial set for May 2025 after having settled her own case outside of court? So that's a yes?
Yes. I mean, I don't know the terms of the settlement. Let's make this clear. I have not read the terms of the settlement. There may be a confidentiality requirement on her settlement that prevents her from testifying civilly, but there's nothing to stop her from testifying criminally.
What, so even if she signed an NDA, when it comes to the feds, these are the big boys, they'll just call her in?
Feds don't give a damn about no NDA. They're like, that's wonderful, you signed that, great, get on the stand and testify. Now, they don't care. That NDA does nothing for the criminal participation. Nothing.
Okay, and please keep sending your questions in. We love answering them on the programme. WhatsApp them to us at 0330 123 551. That's 0330 123 551. Okay, now we've come to that time where we need to look at what else is swirling around out there elsewhere in the Diddyverse. Well, it looks like the hunt for the so-called Diddy list, that's a list of all the celebrity names allegedly linked to his alleged crimes, has made its way from social media into the real world. Basketball star LeBron James was at a Rams NFL game when someone started shouting at him, "Bron, we know you were at those Diddy parties. We see you. We know you were at those Diddy parties." He doesn't react to what's being said, and he hasn't publicly commented on Diddy parties since the allegations came out. But we do have to say, he's not mentioned in any civil suits, he's not mentioned in the federal indictment, and nobody is trying to sue him. So we've heard Bana's allegations, and we know Cassie made allegations in her lawsuit. Our colleague Katie Razzle over at Newsnight has been talking to Lisa Bloom. She's a lawyer representing Dawn Richard.
I'm very proud to represent Dawn Richard. She was on the TV show with Shaun Combs, Making the Band, back in 2004. Then she was in two bands that he produced, Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money. And we filed her lawsuit a few months ago alleging that Shaun Combs used a lot of offensive gendered comments in the workplace, calling women fat, ugly, the B word and other terms, that he groped and grabbed her body parts, sexually assaulted her, that he not only failed to pay her money that was promised to her, but actually prevented her from eating and sleeping during those years, just treated her terribly. She also, unfortunately, she alleges, witnessed some severe acts of violence against Cassie, Ventura, and other women. And when she spoke out, she says she was threatened with more physical violence. She said Shaun Combs had a vicious temper, and she was absolutely terrified of him. My client knew Cassie Ventura, she says, witnessed a lot of acts of violence, like Cassie was making some eggs in a kitchen. They weren't to Shaun Combs's liking. He threw the pan across the room and, physically assaulted her on numerous occasions. And Dawn Richard, my client, says that when she spoke out about it, tried to get Cassie to speak out, when she complained about it, she was also threatened with physical violence.
And I just want to quote to you Mr. Combs's response. He still professes his wider innocence when it comes to Cassie Ventura. And when it comes to your client, his lawyer said Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. It's an attempt to rewrite history. Dawn Richard has now manufactured a series of false claims, all in the hopes of trying to get a payday, conveniently timed to coincide with her album release and press tour. If Miss Richard had such a negative experience with Mr. Combs, as she said over the period, she would not have chosen to continue directly working with him, nor returned for an album reboot in 2020. That's his perspective. Just explain, from your perspective, she did continue to work with him. She worked with him from 2004 to 2020. In the indictment, you've described an atmosphere of fear. What did you mean by that?
So a woman does not have to choose between her dignity and her job. A woman doesn't have to go from job to job, fleeing from billionaire bullies like Shaun Combs, fleeing from sexual harassers or people who engage in violence. It is 100% on Shaun Combs and other men who are accused of workplace misconduct to stop it, to knock it off. She didn't have to give up her career in order to have her dignity. So in terms of the atmosphere of fear, dozens and dozens of people have now come forward and said the same thing that Don Richard has said, that it was, he had a terrible temper. He was very violent. We all saw it on that video. And that video, by the way, was Cassie Ventura trying to leave a party, what have been called the freak off parties. She had the temerity to want to have her own agency and decide that she wanted to leave. And we see him assaulting her, kicking her when she's down, and dragging her back into the party because he didn't want her to leave.
Here's my first thought when I heard it. You always have to ask, are we just bringing a lawsuit because he's an awful human being? Or can we prove that we actually have damages? Do we have, and you have to prove it. Let's make sure. You have to have cognizable damages. You just can't say, this was awful, give me money. You have to, under our system of justice, show what your actual damages are. And a lot of these, because of these situations, you don't have physical scars, you have mental scars. And so were you going to therapy? Were you seeing psychology? Were you talking to your friends? How has this actually affected you?
I would add, though, Dawn, you have to remember, is a former bad boy artist. She
Yes.
was on Danny
Yes.
Kane. She was on Diddy Dirty Money. And the women of Danny D. Kane have come out and have said that they basically made nothing from their time on making the band, that their careers went nowhere. Dawn is in a unique position that she went on to be in another musical act with Diddy. And again, she's pointing out in terms of damages that she wasn't paid, that she was underpaid, or kind of this financial aspect to her case, which Shaun, I think it points to how will she prove actual damages. There's a clear way being an artist. And if she can show, hey, I made, XYZ amount, that is way undervalued for all of my time working with him. So that could be a pathway forward for her.
And what she's doing, and that's the conversations that lawyers have when they have those. What are your, and I like how Cheyenne said it. So you have to sit down with somebody that says, what are your cognizable damages? Hurt feelings aren't damages. What Cheyenne just said are damages. I lost money because of blank. You have to be able to prove it.
And I just want to quickly pick up on something else. It's a question that we've had a few times. Lisa Bloom references it, I say it, and so does the federal government. It's the use of the term freak off. And the question we keep getting is, why is anyone using the term freak off? It's a term allegedly originated by Diddy himself. Shaun, is that normal for the federal indictment to use that term and not try and sort of, I don't know, redefine it themselves, like a sex party or an orgy?
Don't forget, the federal indictment is just a lawsuit, okay? When we try to boil it down, it is a lawsuit against Diddy, but it's against him not for financial gain, but so that he doesn't have any freedom. And so when it's a lawsuit, somebody wrote it. And when somebody writes a lawsuit, what we're trying to do is what's happening now. Like when you read the lawsuit that we've been talking about today, they included pictures, they included examples, so that when we read it, we get a certain feeling. You understand? When you read the lawsuit, you get a feeling. So if the federal indictment would have said a Diddy party or a party at Shaun Combs' house, it wouldn't have had the same visceral reaction of a butt-naked baby oil freak-off party. It wouldn't have, but when you say freak-off, that's all we're talking about. When you mention the baby oil, that's all we're talking about. The federal government is brilliant in the way that they drafted this indictment because they didn't want it to just be boring. They wanted to have a visceral reaction when you read it and say, this is what he did. I like when lawsuits, I like when indictments are utilized with plain language and not trying to sound like fancy lawyers or the fancy government. They used his own words against him, and your own words against you will always hurt you more than the government's.
And we do have to remind everybody for one last time today, Diddy denies all the allegations against him and says he's never sexually assaulted anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. Shaun, Cheyenne, thank you so much for joining me again today, and I'll see you very soon.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay, but before we go today, it's time, of course, for fact or fiction. This week's question was DM'd to me by Sophie from London, and we also got a very similar one from Callum from Manchester.
Yeah, so do you think it's true that there are tunnels going from Diddy's house to Michael Jackson's house?
So I've seen this question a few times and there seems to be different variations of it. I've seen some people saying tunnels linking to Michael Jackson's house and some people saying tunnels linking to the Playboy Mansion. When it comes to there being tunnels from Diddy's house to Michael Jackson's house, there's absolutely no evidence for that. And I'm not quite sure where that claim started. But when it comes to claims about the Playboy Mansion, we can track that. So yes, the Playboy Mansion is just a 6-minute walk away from one of Diddy's homes. And in 2023, Marston Hefner, that's Hugh Hefner's son, posted on Instagram that there were tunnels underneath his dad's house, but that they were being used for laundry. When it comes to the Diddy tunnels, that comes from this doctored news report that has since been debunked. However, real estate listings did say that the mansion includes a lagoon-style swimming pool with an underwater grotto that's connected by an underground swimming tunnel. But that tunnel doesn't link the property to any others. So that's this week's Fact or Fiction. But have you heard something that you want fact-checked, or you just want us to unpack on the pod? You can send us your questions on WhatsApp at 0330 123 551. That's 0330 123 551. I'm Anoushka Mutanda-Dougherty, and you've been listening to Diddy on Trial from BBC Sounds and the BBC World Service.